This is brought to you by the George Jackson Grassroots Collective, a progressive organization in the new African independence movement that cultivates revolutionary transfer culture, liberating the minds through awareness and education, protecting and training our people while fostering unity as stated in the Code of Umoja. Welcome to the George Jackson Grassroots Collective Dialogue Session.
My name is Abdullah Ghazi, National Chairman of the George Jackson Grassroots Collective. We have a special guest today, and he goes by the name of Shay. Attica, survivor. Could you please tell us more about yourself, brother?
My name is Chet Gjgrc. I'm an Attica survivor. I went to prison when I was 14 for a crime that I feel was justifiable. It was murder, but it was justifiable. It was either him or me. And so it was him. And I went to prison when I was 14 years old. They wanted to give me life. No, they didn't want to give me life. That's a lie. They wanted to give me the electric chair. But because of the fact that I was young, you know, they gave me 7.5 to 15 years. And I went to prison and I did all of it.
With you being a survivor at Attica, you said you had some documents to read. But before we go into the documents, could you tell me a little bit more of how you got your name?
Yes. When I went to Auburn prison, from Eastern Correctional Facility. You know, I went to Auburn prison, and it was there that I finally was able to meet some of the Panther brothers whom began educating me and politicizing me on a lot of things. They woke me up. I was close to about 18 years old, and when they woke me up, and I became involved in the struggle right after that. And as I struggled in Auburn prison, I began talking about, man, we need to organize Puerto Ricans, man, you know. And the Panthers said, yeah, that's good. You know, you speak Spanish, you Puerto Rican, you do the organizing, we'll help you. I said, cool. And so we did that. You know, that's how I met the Black Panther parties. And you know, they've been with me ever since. You know, in spirit, in mind, and in work.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're gonna go a little bit more into your dialogue right now. So, if you could tell us about Attica and your experience first through your dialogue, and then we're gonna ask you, you know, more questions after you give us all the information that you have regarding your experience there.
Okay, you want me to do what I did before?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
To get it into it as I wrote it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll start. I want to begin by saying, prison is no joke. It is a place of horror, a place of unjust torture, abuse, and murder. It is a concentration camp where poor people suffer, and where all their rights are taken away and they are treated as slaves. All your human rights are taken. You are no longer a human being once you enter prison. This is the reason why people in prisons rebel. They rebel because of inhumane treatment. This was the reason why we at Attica prison rebelled against inhumane treatment. This was the same reason why Brother George Jackson was rebelling against. He refused to be treated less than human. Brother George Jackson and the Attica struggle are one and the same struggle. They killed Brother George for the same reason they killed 29 brothers at Attica. Prison location doesn't matter It doesn't make a difference. Brother George fought for human rights at Soledad Prison as well as St. Quentin, while we at Attica Prison fought for the same rights. On August 21st, 1971, Brother George was murdered. Their charges for such murder was an attempt to escape from prison. He also was armed. He also was accused of being armed and attempted to shoot guards. This was all a prefabricated lie. On September 13, 1971, while they were shooting many of us in the yard, they were also telling people in the outside that we were killing the hostages, when in fact, in reality, they're the ones who kill the hostages. They're the ones who do the killing because they're the ones who had the guns. The system is known to lie. It's a lying system. We live under a lying system. The truth was that they were shooting and killing us in the yard, and they were also kill their own kind, guards. But George was killed because he was a threat to the system. The brothers who were killed at Attica were also a threat to the system. So as you can see the parallels between them. Attica and Soledad Prison, or St. Quentin, or St. Quentin Prison. On September 23rd, 1971, we at Attica Prison had a memorial event to remember Brother George. We call it a hunger strike. We had a hunger strike where the whole prison young population refused to eat in the mess hall. We wore black armbands as a sign of solidarity with Brother George. The prison guards were so scared and took various precautions, one of which many of us were locked up in our cells, as well as many of us went to segregation, which is called isolation. But George was 18 when he went to prison. I was 14 when I entered prison for a crime of murder that today I see it as unjustifiable. It was either him or me, like I said before. Nature took its course and I defended myself. I was charged with first-degree murder, a sentence that carried the death sentence. But due to my age, they gave me 7.5 to 15 years. Throughout my years in prison, I was continuously transferred from prison to prison. When you are a freedom fighter in prison, let me say this. When you are a freedom fighter in prison, you are always susceptible of being either killed or transferred from prison to prison, because one prison can't tolerate you, another one will try to tolerate you, and they can't tolerate you either. So you go from prison to prison, and that's the life that I lived when I became political. In 1969, I was introduced to the Black Panther Party. They gave me life, they gave me inspiration, and my eyes were open to a new world. I too met Marx, Lenin, Mao, Castro, Che, Lumumba, and other revolutionaries, like Brother George said in his book. He met all these people. I met them too. My reading took me into the world of Marxism. This brought the system down on me, and they transferred me out from one prison to another. In those years, there were only 5 prisons in the New York State prison system. Today, there's many more. And why? Because of mass incarceration. And mass incarceration is another method of capturing and imprisoning poor people, people of color. What do you do? What do you think of one? What do you think of one? Only one shower a week. That's what they used to give us at Attica. Does that sound justifiable? One toilet paper a month. What do you think about that? If you think if you didn't speak English, you spoke Spanish, your family spoke Spanish, they were denied access to seeing you. They were deprived of seeing their loved ones in prison only because they spoke Spanish and they couldn't speak English. Isn't that a kick in the ass? You know, if your loved ones wrote you a letter in Spanish, it was torn up. Why it was torn up? Because nobody there spoke Spanish. Nobody there understood English, Spanish. And so everything that was Spanish was banned from the prison. You know, when your family comes to see you, no can do. They were sent back. The food there was lousy. It was filthy lousy, and it was cold. And they gave you the same food over and over, same everything, the same every day. You got the same food. 85% of the population was people of color. When I was transferred from one prison to another, it was here that I began forming the Young Lords Party. Everywhere I went, I started formulating the Young Lords Party. But when I was transferred from Auburn prison after where the Panthers were to Attica in 1969, it was there in Attica that I formulated, you know, with the help of the Panthers, of course, I started formulating the Young Lords Party, and I became the chairman of the Young Lords Party. We began addressing prison issues such as exploitation of our labor. We talked about union issues, which the prison didn't go along with. I was transferred from Attica to Green Haven prison only because I was forcing them to look at the situation very closely, you know. And being that we worked in a labor shop, you know, we want the unions to be formulated, and they didn't want that to happen. So they started picking us up, rounding us up, and shipping us out to somewhere else. So I went to Green Haven prison in 1969. The same year that I went to Attica, I was transferred, you know. So I went to Green Haven prison, you know, which was closer to the city. I live in the city. I mean, I used to live in the city. I don't live in the city no more, but, you know, I used to live in the city back then. And so Green Haven prison was closer to the city. But still the issues remain, you know, and I started formulating the Young Lords Party with the Black Panther Party's help. You know, I was able to form the Young Lords in Green Haven prison. And it was at Green Haven prison that the population, the membership grew so tremendously. It was crazy. You know, we used to have exercises in the yard, military exercises, you know, self-defense and that kind of stuff, you know, and we was politicizing the population, doing PE. We used to call it PE, you know, political education. Every Sunday we used to have PE in the yard, and people would come around and sit down and listen to what we had to say, and we spoke about it. After 2 months of being in Green Haven, you know, it was about 35 people that grew within 2 months' time. You know, people in the yards began taking noticing of our participation. How could they? They were there with us. They had to take notice, and so they took notice of what we were doing. And some of them, no, I won't say some of them. A lot of them came around on Sundays just to sit down and listen to what we had to say. And the Young Lords, we would talk about Puerto Rican history. We would talk about Malcolm X. We would talk about Mao Zedong. We would talk about Ho Chi Minh. We would talk about everything that needs to be said, you know. But mainly we would talk Puerto Ricans. We were talking about Puerto Rico, you know, because we wanted them to know that Puerto Rico, you know, a lot of Puerto Ricans think they're Americans. In actuality, they're not Americans. They're Boricuas, you know. But you know, because of the education that's been given to them, man, throughout the years, they think they're Americans, you know. And the funny thing is that in Puerto Rico, at the very beginning of the early 1900s, you know, the system, colonialism, the colonists, they took our island and they turned it into, I mean, everything, they just totally destroyed it, you know. And a lot of youngsters in the schools, in early schools, they had to be, you couldn't speak Spanish. You had to speak English. And so they used to have to say the Star Spangled Banner in English. Not a lot of them didn't even understand it. And so a lot of Puerto Ricans decided not to go back to schools, and they demonstrated against that. And eventually they brought it back. You see, but there's a lot of things that happen in Puerto Rico that a lot of people don't even know about. And this what we were talking to the masses and the population in prison about what was happening in Puerto Rico, what happened in Puerto Rico, and why we was colonized for the United States. So I was transferred back from Greenhaven. I was transferred back to Attica, and so when we got transferred back to Attica, we started reorganizing as we were doing before. And at this time, by the time that we got back, there was two organizations that were formulated by the Black Panther Party, and that was the People's Party and the Attica. What was the Attica? The Attica something, I forgot, man. But anyway, the People's Party, mainly the People's Party, was formulated by the Black Panther Party, and they were in conjunction with the Black Panthers, and they used to do a lot of things that the Panthers wasn't able to do. So the People's Party take it over. It was Attica Fraction. That was the name of it. And so the administration began taking notice of all this stuff, man, but they couldn't do nothing because they transfer us. Where were they going to transfer us when we was transferred from different prison to different prisons? So they just kept us, a lot of us, they put us in segregation. A lot of us, they put us in our cells, and they denied us of a lot of things. You know, some of us in our own cells, we wasn't even allowed to, no food came to our cells. So we weren't hungry, you know. But I mean, what in Attica, what kind of food were they giving? They were giving pork most of the time. Every day we were giving pork, and the black Muslims in the yard wasn't denied. You know, they were denied, you know, services. They wasn't able to have their services as black Muslims. You know, so there was a lot of denial that would happen in Attica, and there was a lot of abuses that happened in Attica. And so this was the reason why we eventually decided to rebel against the condition. Just like Brother George, man, you know, he was organizing, you know, the black guerrillas in San Quentin. I think in San Quentin, in Soledad Prison, you know, he was organizing them, you know, and I'm pretty sure that eventually, if they would have gave him the chance, he would have rebelled, because that's the resistance is the law of nature. And when a person is enslaved as a slave, the only thing that the slave has is resistance. And so he had to. I knew that eventually Brother George was resistant. He was resistant either way, you know, because he wasn't tolerating a lot of bullshit that was happening in his part of the world. You know, neither was I, or neither was us in our part of the world. We wasn't tolerating the bullshit either. And so when we rebelled. You know, I must say that in the beginning, it was chaotic because, you know, people running all over the place, you know, and then eventually, man, you know, when the Panthers and the Laws and the People's Party, when we organized, we started putting discipline. We started talking to people and telling them, man, to stop doing the bullshit, because there were people smoking out there, smoking weed. I don't know where the hell they got it from, and they were drinking. I don't know what the hell they got that from, you know, and they were drugging, man, and we didn't want that kind of stuff, man, in the rebellion, man, you know, but eventually they did. In about 4 hours, we did our work in 4 hours, everything was normal, you know, and then we formulated a committee, a committee that was going to take care of all of our issues, you know, and in that committee, and of course, that committee was composed of various people that were voted by the population, prison population voted them in, you know, and then there were the Panthers and us who were behind the scenes, man, directing things so that everything goes right, you know. And it went right, you know. We had about 40 hostages, and we started negotiating with the system, and the system said, well, what you want? Well, we want this. We want the Young Laws to come in. We want the Black Panthers to come in. We want the Prison Solidarity Committee to come in. We want a lot of people to come in. And they just as we gave it, they started started calling up people and bringing people over, and so a few days later, about 2 days later, the Black Panthers came. Huey, no, not Huey. Huey wasn't there. Bobby Seals came with two other brothers, and Brother Fee from the Young Laws came, and Jose Paris from the Young Laws came, and a few other people from the communities they came, and so they started. They were observers, and so they were listening to our issues, and things were going okay, man, for the first few days. But what happened was one of the guards was so injured that he died. And before he died, I said some of the people took him to the hospital, to I don't know what to call it, demoralization center. It's a place where the enemy's here and we here. And we went and gave him the body, the person that was still alive. We said, "Here, man, take that man to the hospital, man. He was a hostage. Take him to the hospital, man, because he's very injured, severely injured." But they didn't take him to the hospital. They kept him there for a few days, and as a result of that, after a few days of us negotiating, we feel things were going okay. Boom, person dead. He died. And as a result of that, all our issues were down the drain. The only thing we had was amnesty. And amnesty wasn't enough because they wasn't going to go with that, So we didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to say, because now we had a standstill. We don't know what to do. And then on the 13th, that Monday, some of us were walking around trying to figure out a few things. And all of a sudden we looked up and we see a helicopter come in, and I thought, man, for a moment, I thought it was a helicopter that came to take us to a non-imperialistic country, because that was one of my issues. Man. We wanted to go to Cuba, but it wasn't. It wasn't for those purposes. They dropped this gas in the yard, which really fogged the whole place up. It fogged everybody. People couldn't see where they were going. And meanwhile, the helicopter is telling people, surrender to your nearest officer, you will not be harmed. Now, how the hell could you surrender to somebody when you can't see it? Everything is foggy. How the hell you could do that? And people who were attempted to surrender were shot. Right on the spot. I know some brothers, man, who got killed as they were surrendering. So all of us, they put us up against, they put us on the ground, and I was crawling with my head with face down, crawling in the grass, and somebody put his feet on my head and say, "Move, nigga, move, nigga, move, nigga," and I couldn't move, man, because he had his foot on my head. He kept on kicking me on my side of my head, kicking me on my ribs, kicking me on my back. I said, oh shit. And so when we got to a certain point, they told me to get up. So when I got up, he said, take off all your clothes. So I took off all my clothes. He said, now go to that line there over there. So we went to another line and we walked in a circle. And then they took me out. They took me out of that circle, and they placed me in a wall with an X on my back. And I said, why you put that X? He said, don't worry about it. But I knew that the X was an indication of death. It was an indication that they were going to shoot me. But there was other brothers in the wall as well. So I said, what the hell? Then the police came around and asked me, who you want us to call? I said, who do you want us to call? What you talking about? And he said, I got nasty with him. And he said, who do you want us to call? I said, call my sister. She's in Puerto Rico. But how the hell is he gonna call? Because I never gave her the telephone number or the address. So it was crazy, And so and behind me, or behind us, there was a state trooper sitting there with a shotgun, and he was getting ready to shoot us, man. You know, and I said, "Damn, man!" And all of a sudden, for some reason, for some miracle, I don't believe in miracles, but for some miracle, there was something. A senator came out into the catwalk and looked down and saw what was happening. He said, "I don't want that to happen." So they stopped it from happening. But meanwhile, they took us out of the state of the wall. They placed us in a line that had to run through a gauntlet. Now the gauntlet is composed of 25 people on one side, 25 people on the other. There was guards on this side, state troopers on this side, and they both of them, they were hitting us from left and right. We had our hands on our head like this, and we was running. I was constantly falling, you know, and I get myself up until a point I fell, and I said, "Fuck it, man, let me stay here," you know. And they kept on hitting me. I said, "Oh man, shit, let me get up." And if I stayed there, they're gonna kill me there. So I got up and kept on running until I got to the end of the line. When I got at the end of the line, they said, "Gabe, run to the end of the cell." So I ran to the end of the cell, and I got in the cell. Then there was two brothers in the cell already. One was shot in the chest, and the other one was shot in the leg. And they were complaining, but hey, you know, how could you complain? You can't complain to me. What could I do? You know, I'm sorry to see it, man, but shit, man, that's life, man. You know, I was hurt. I was all hurt up, man. You know, and then this pig came to my cell, and he said, "What's your name?" I said, "Chan Nieves." He said, "Yeah, you the man. Come here." So I went over to the bars, and he said, "Put your chin on the bars." I said, "What?" He said, "Put your chin on the bars." And something told me, man, do what you got, do it, man, because he's looking forward to killing you if you don't. So I said, "Well, what the hell, man?" I put my chin on the bar, and he took his gun, and he clipped it, and he put it on right on my head, and clapped. Nothing happened. So he said, "Oh, you safe by now. You will come back later and see what's happening. But meanwhile, you stay like that." So I stood like that, and then another guy comes and say, "What you doing with your chin on the bar? Go sit down." So I sit down. But anyway, to make it short, this happened for the rest of the night. It was like this. Take your chin off, put the chin off, all that. It happened all night. I suffered, you know, with that. We saw the doctors like 3 days later. After 3 days of being in the cells, when we saw the doctor, we were stripped naked. We didn't have no clothes. You know, they didn't give us no food, etc. So that's Attica. You know, that's in a nutshell. That's what boils down to what Attica is all about. And I'll say this: that it was premeditated murder that happened at Attica, just like premeditated murder that happened to Brother George Jackson. It was premeditated murder, you know, and no one has been accountable for that murder. In George Jackson, nobody was accountable for that murder. Yeah, their justification was that he had a gun, and that was the reason. That was their justification for shooting him. So, of course, and the people in the streets see this and say, "Oh, well, he had a gun." You know, no, he didn't have no gun. How the hell he gonna have a gun and then go put it in his afro? How the hell that should make no sense. But that's the lie that they gave, you know, to kill George. And that's always been lies throughout history, man. They always been lying and lying and lying. And I think, man, the biggest lies in the world are the capitalists. So right now, I'll stop.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have a lot of questions for you. A lot of questions for you. And thank you for the dialogue so far as you know, telling us step by step how it went. But before we go deep into the questions, for the people who just don't understand revolution, there's a bunch of young guys who just don't get it, you know, when it comes to some of the terms you use or whatnot. But if you can briefly say, and this is just for transparency for the listeners, with your own opinion right now, your own perspective, you can give me the brief answer. What exactly is the Attica movement? What was that about?
Well, first of all, Attica is Attica prison. You know, that's first and foremost. You know, just like Auburn prison was where I met the Panthers, and then there was other prisons as it goes. But all Attica, the Attica movement was a result of brothers who were charged with all kinds of charges, you know, and there were 64 brothers that were charged with numerous crimes that they claimed was committed in the yard, you know, and there was no crimes that were committed in the yard, but they claimed it. So after about up to a year later, they come down and they start charging us with numerous crimes, such as holding hostages, such as keeping, you know, not giving hostages food on time, and this was the lies. They were feeding people with lies, you know, and so they accused a lot of us of. One of them was accused of the murder of that guard, you know, and others were committed by disorderly conduct, all those kind of charges they had against us. And so eventually, what happened was that we formulated Attica liberation, Attica liberation movement in the streets, and we call ourselves the Attica Brothers, and that's how the Attica movement was formulated.
Yes, sir. And just going back a little bit just for transparency for the listeners, why did they riot in Attica? Why did they do all that stuff? Why?
We had to do it. There was no other cause but to do it. We were sick. We were sick and tired of being sick and tired of being abused, of being tortured, of being murdered. Because I know some brothers, man, that even went to segregation and never came back. So, and we was also tired of one toilet paper a week. No, one toilet paper a month, one shower a week. You know, lousy food, the negation of our mail because of the fact that it was in another language. You know, the restriction of religious services such as the black Muslims wasn't allowed to have their ceremonies in the yard. All these conditions, you know, we just got to a point where we just couldn't take it no more. You know, I mean, gods, you know, they never spoke to us, and we never communicated with the gods. Every time we was in the line, we were going somewhere. They wanted to stop. They knocked twice on a wall. Stop twice. Knock was stop. One knock was go. You know, so they never communicated with us. You know, and plus racism was rampant in Attica. So I mean, there were people to these white folks, man, in Attica was nobody, you know, and so we had to rebel.
Yes, sir. So the rebel, though, what sparked it was George Jackson, right? That's what sparked it.
Well, yes, you could say that. Yes, you could say George Jackson, because we said if that happens to him, then it's going to happen to us.
So the death of George Jackson sparked the Attica riot, right?
Exactly. The death of George Jackson, you know, was part of, not totally, but was part of, you know, because we looked at George Jackson as somebody who probably was an Attica, you know, undergone the experiences that we were experiencing. Yes. So you could say that the murder of George Jackson was part of the Attica Rebellion. I wouldn't say it was that caused it. I would say it was part of, because we had our reasons also for rebellion. You know, like I say, all the stuff that I mentioned.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I had a couple questions about Young Lords. With Young Lords starting in Chicago and you being in New York, what was the correlations um to that? Because are you one of the founders or one of the organizers, or how did this? What's the correlation between Chicago Young Lords and you during this time? What how does that break down?
Well, in 1969, I must say, the young. Well, first of all, the Young Lords in Chicago, they split. And the Young Lords and see the people in New York, formulated the Young Lords in New York, and we separated ourselves from the Young Lords in Chicago for various reasons, and we formed, and the first Young Lord Party in New York City was in 1969, and that was during that time that I was able to be connected to the Young Lords because one of our brothers left the Attica prison and went to straight into the Young Lords, and that's how we was able to connect. So the Young
Yes,
Lords,
sir.
Young Lords in Chicago had similarities to the Young Lords in New York, but they had differences. We had political differences, so we split. The Young Lords Party became the Young Lords Party, and the Young Lords in Chicago became something else. I don't know, but they became something else.
Do you know a name do you know a name called Big Blacksmith?
Big Blacksmith? Yes, I do. Big Blacksmith was one of the persons who was head of security in Attica. We formulated that security, and he was in charge of formulating security, making sure that hostages were taken care of, making sure that the population was taken care of. He was also making sure that the observers that came in and out were well taken care of. Yeah, Big Blacksmith. We used to call him Big Black.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have another one. Um, could you tell me where did the Attica Manifesto actually come from? And you kind of answered it a little bit, but just talk more on that. You kind of actually you kind of said it already.
I didn't talk about that because, first of all, the Attica Fraction and the People's Party were the ones who formulated the manifesto. But it was believed, and up until this point, I don't know how true it is. So I can't say it's not. It was believed that it came from the West Coast, from the East Coast. Well, yeah, it came from California. I think it came from California. I'm not sure about that because when I came back from Greenhaven to Attica, that proposal, that manifesto, was in the process of being formulated.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What is the propaganda engine behind the Young Lords?
What do you mean?
What would you say was the propaganda engine for the YLP?
Well, we believed in national liberation. We believed in that Puerto Rico should be free. Like those kind of things. Am I correct in where I'm going?
Oh, it's whatever we're not here to debate you or anything like that, comrade. We just here to whatever you say goes. From your perspective, it's about your perspective.
Just keep in mind that two-way situation here. I may not be totally, and you probably will remind me. I mean, the manifesto is something right now. You just reminded me that I hadn't even thought about. But right. I knew at the time in 1960 that the manifesto was formulated a few weeks. Let me see, a few weeks before George Jackson was killed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Um, Another question. Bobby Seale, the relationship with Attica and the rebellion. Do you know that? The relationship between Bobby Seale and Attica and the
Do you
rebellion?
really want me to tell you that? Because it's not going to be sound too good.
Go ahead. We get it raw and uncut right here.
The Attica brothers have always held a beef with not Bobby Seals. Why? Because we called him to come, and he came, but he only stood 10 minutes, and he left. He left so fast as he got in, and we never understood up until this point today why he did that. He said that he had to go back to talk to Bobby Seals. But what's the purpose of talking to Bobby Seals? To talk to Huey P. Newton. If he came under the directions of Huey P. Newton, then everything should have been all right. Whatever he said was okay with Huey. But no, he said he had to go back and speak to Huey. And he left in 10 minutes. He didn't stay no longer than 10 minutes. You talk to any Attica brother, and they'll tell you the same thing.
Tom, there's another name. See if you know him. Tom Wicker. Do you know him?
No, I know Tom Soto.
Tom Soto?
Yeah, Tom Soto was a leader of the fascist group of the Solidarity Committee. He came. Okay. He came. What is that? The fascist? No. Yeah, something like that. I don't remember, but he was also part of the workers' world. Tom Soto, but you talk about Tom Wicks. Yeah, he was a newspaper. What is that? A reporter?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Tom Wick. He was a reporter for the. Oh God, what was it? I forgot I forget. Sometimes my mind just goes blank. But yeah, Tom Wick, man, he spoke, man. He spoke a few times in the yard that night, a few nights, and he talked. He was amazed as to how we treated the hostages. We treated the hostages with great respect, and he, and when he interviewed the hostages, some of the hostages, not all, he interviewed some of the hostages, and they gave him recommendations. They said that we treated them with high respect.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, he has this book.
He also wrote a book. I forgot the name of it.
Yeah. There you go.
He also
remember it now.
Yeah, right. He also wrote a book, but I don't remember the name of it.
The book is.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the book is called "Time to Die."
Yeah, "Time to Die." That's right.
Right. Was that a good description of Attica?
Exactly. A good description, because he was part of. He became part of us. Squads kept. He didn't want to leave on that Sunday night. He didn't want to leave. He wanted to stay because he knew that he also spoke with Governor Rockefeller, and Governor Rockefeller was in cahoots with Nixon, Tricky Dick Nixon, and they both were determined that the way Attica happened was to happen. And Tom Wicker knew about this, and he didn't even understand. So he wanted to stay in the yard with us that night because he felt that maybe if he stood in the yard, they won't shoot at him, or they won't shoot at us because he was there. But no, he had to leave. We said he had to go. He couldn't stay on that Sunday, so he left.
Yes, sir. And one of those manifestos, when you said it originate from Cali, that's yes, sir. That's the Folsom prison, most definitely. Yeah. So going back into man, you on point, man. You knew everything, man. It's all coming to you, ain't it?
pretty much, man. I'm 75, man. My brain sometimes
right. I'm trying to take it easy on you.
It opens up and something. I dream with Attica. I dream with it.
Right.
I never forget.
So let's get deep now. Let's get a little
Okay,
deep.
let's go. Let's go. That's what I like.
How did it feel so far as, I mean, you gave us a dialogue in the beginning, but the eerie feeling, like being in such a racist evil place at a time during that time. What was the climate like? Tell me, put me in the climate of how it was, like how it feel. What was the temperature? I would say
It felt good. I felt good for those 4 days that we did in that yard. I felt good. You know why? Because it was, to me, it was like freedom. You know what it is to look up at night, man, and see the stars? You didn't see the stars at night. You was locked in, so you couldn't see the stars. So seeing the stars for the first time in so many years, it felt good.
wow. Oh wait, hold on, man. So you're telling me the way it was set up was like a I forgot how it's called, but like it's like a dome, like you can't see outside at all. It's just like
At,
there's an outside part, but
at night,
you're not
no, at
outside.
night, no, at night you can't see at all. You see
Right,
there's windows in front of you, but the windows
right,
are at a distance from you, so
right,
you
right,
can't.
right, right. Yeah, yeah, you're right, you're right.
No, it's at a
Right,
distance, so you can't see nothing. You can't even see the stars. You can't see the sun. As quiet as it's
right.
kept.
Yeah, you're right. You made yeah, like you said, like you said, recess or whatever time. I said recess. That's the wrong word to call it, but you can go out during the daytime, not nighttime. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, at
So you can't
nighttime.
see the
No, at nighttime
right,
you're not
right, right,
allowed. Maybe now, I
right,
don't know. Maybe things have changed. I don't know.
right,
But even I don't think that they'll let people out at night.
right, 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 right. So did you have a few comrades that died during that time?
I had a whole lot of comrades that died during that time. During the whole period. During when they stormed the prison, all the 29 people that died, man, with my comrades. All of them.
Oh wow,
You
wow.
know,
Um,
including some of us that were injured, seriously injured. You know, I was well known in Attica. You know, so it's, I mean, not that it is a big thing, but I was well known. You know, in Attica, and they had high respect for me because I was one of the first Puerto Ricans who stood up and said, "Fuck you"
yes,
to the
sir.
system.
Let me ask this question. Surviving in that prison, what was some of your tactics that kept you alive for so long? Like what was the tactic you use on a daily? What are some tips you can get to survive
My
prison during the
sanity,
time?
my sanity was when I used to get in the cell at night and read my books. You know, read up on Mao. You know, he talks about discipline. I read about Marx. When he see, because Marx was in jail too. You know, Marx went to jail and he was charged with he was charged on various occasions with various charges. You know, and but he always managed to beat because he was a lawyer. But how did I feel? I felt there was time. There was my days. I had days where I felt depressed, you know, and I didn't want to be there, you know, but I had no choice. And when I'm gonna tell you, when the siren went off, and the siren was an indicator that something was happening, and it was the hostages that being taken and people were running all over the place. A siren. I was at another place in the prison. I was in what you call the metal shop, and the metal shop is where they make metals for value for cabinets, etc. And I was working there, and we heard the siren, and so you know we all stopped and we started looking down to the floor because I was on the second floor. We started looking down to the floor, and then we seen this door, and people were banging on it. And for some reason, man, you know, eventually they gave in to the banging. The door gave in, and everybody walked. You know, Sam Melville, which was one of a close friend of mine, you know, he came in and said, "You are all free." And I looked at him and I smiled because I said, how could I be free? I'm in prison, you know. But those 4 days was freedom for me. Because
Yes, sir.
I was able to do whatever the hell I wanted to do. But I didn't want to do nothing but be. But if I was a reactionary, I probably would have felt like smoking weed and drinking wine and doing this and doing that. No, but I wasn't about that. I was about being a revolutionary, and being very principled about it. And that in itself gave me life.
Right, right. And I had to go back and correct myself. I can't believe out my mouth I called it recess time. Y'all coming out, it's York time. I'm thinking about school and stuff like that. There's definitely no recess time in prison.
No, there isn't. There is no recess. The only recess you got is when you're in your cell. When you're in your cell, that's the only recess you got, and even that is not. It's not unless you got to be involved. Even in your cell, you got to have books, you got to have literature, you got to have something to keep things going, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So for like protection, and we don't got to go into deep things, but like, did you always have something on you for protection or whatnot during the time, like just your time there or whatnot?
No, because I always walked with when I was in the yard. I was always with people, with some laws. The Minister of Defense was my guard. He was always walking with me, even during the Attica Rebellion. During the whole thing. Those 4 days that we stood in the yard, the Minister of Defense was always with me, protecting me and guiding me. So I didn't have no problem with anything.
Let's go back into the climate. So during this time in Attica, what type of prison gangs was there? Like, and what I mean by that, was there skinheads? Was there Nazis there yet, or what else was there that was an opposition to y'all guys?
It was the Italian mafia. Then he had those kind of gangs in Attica. The only gang that was in Attica was the mafia. And even then, and even Jerry the Jew, who was part of the mafia, he became part of the Attica struggle, and he was one of our spokesmen during the whole negotiation. He was a lawyer. He also was a lawyer. He became a lot of white people, man. In Attica, became involved in with us, man. Even before the Attica thing, they became involved because they knew, they could feel it. They knew there was shit happening, man, and needs to be done and need to be corrected. But they were scared to do it.
And I gotta bring it up. You said there's nothing but mafia in that jail.
Yeah,
how racist was the mafia and Italians during this time?
Very racist. They were very racist. No, ain't no doubt. But most of the racism came from the guards. You see, because a lot of white folks, man, they always wanted to negotiate, not negotiate, but talk with us. Black folks and Puerto Ricans and Spanish or whatever, they wanted to talk to us, but the guards will pound on their heads if they did, so a lot of them stood away. Let me tell you, let me give you one example. On July 4th, every year, the guards will come with a bucket of ice to the yard and say white ice and throw it in the yard, throw it into the floor, and white people will come and pick up the ice. Then about half an hour later, they will come back into the yard with another bucket of ice, say black ice, and all of us will go and pick it up. So you could imagine how racist that was. And that wasn't coming from the prisoners, that was coming from the guards. The guards were mostly the racists in the prison, because we couldn't even talk to them. We couldn't even touch them. If you touched them, it was, oh, wow. It's like the devil touched me, So we were always separated.
Wow, that's a crazy thing to that I recognize that it wasn't even the gang on gang problem really at that time. It was more towards the construct, the system, the people in the prison construct,
That's right. That's
the
right.
correction officers and people of
Because
that
let me
nature.
say
That was
this:
y'all number one enemy,
the
right?
hunger strike that we held for Brother George. The majority. No, no, I won't say the majority. All of them, because I take them. I say like a few, two or three, if anything, but all of them, white people, they participated, and a lot of them didn't even know who George Jackson was. But because of the fact of who we were, and they knew who we were, they participated in the hunger strike. And that's what blew the minds of a lot of guards, because they said, well, it's enough, and excuse the words I'm going to use now. It's enough that niggas are doing it. Now white folks are doing it. What the hell is happening here? You know? And it is only right for them to think about that, because white people were tired of the bullshit themselves.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, we go a little bit more into Black August now. And since y'all was already in there, did y'all study any type of Black August training or anything at all? In the future, in your future stay in Attica?
No. Well, we did, but no, I'll say no. And because we was, the Black Panthers, they did a thing in Auburn prison, and it was also part of the August the August what you call the August what?
Yeah, the Black August. Yep,
The
Black
Black
August.
August. Okay, Black August. The Panthers in Auburn prison had something to do with the Black August, and they took over the prison in Auburn and to commemorate, they that was way before Attica, because them same brothers that did that in Auburn, they came to Attica and they were part of the Attica brothers, you know. So, but overall, no. And not that we didn't want to, but because of the fact that every time we talk about Attica, we had to talk about George Jackson.
Right, right,
And
right,
every time that
right.
we talk about George Jackson, we had to talk about Attica because it's all connected.
Yes, sir.
It's very connected.
So it leads me to my next question. What does George Jackson mean to you? You can give me the full detailed, deep answer for that. And I'll let you talk on that.
George Jackson to me represents resistance. Resistance. Because George Jackson was always a fighter. He even when he was a lumpen, he was a fighter. If you read about it, he was a fighter then, but he also was a fighter when he became a revolutionary, and to me, when I think about George Jackson, I think about a person. I think about like Nat Turner as an example. I think about Malcolm. All these symbols of representation of what I think, how I see George Jackson.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we had a little talk before, but I like to even bring it up. Your introduction towards the movement. Somebody gave you a book, and who is that somebody, and what was that book? Who was that somebody? Who was that book that introduced you and opened your mind towards getting into the movement?
The 5%ers. That was like close to, yeah, it was close to about 69 or 70. No, it wasn't that. It wasn't that time. Oh boy. Yeah, it was the 5%ers that introduced me to Brother Malcolm, and but I didn't know who Brother Malcolm was. They gave me the book, The Autobiography of Malcolm X, and I read it, and it was at that point that I woke up, but I wasn't woke up completely. I had to go to Auburn to get politicized.
Yes, sir. You bring up this word politicized, and I really like that word. I really do like that word. I think that word, um, has been neglected so far as in our new generation. I don't think people understand the importance of education, getting educated in, revolutionary socialist, science and being politicized. Can you tell us the importance of doing that even in today, even in this new era?
Well, we know that we live in a capitalist society where greed takes prominent, takes leadership. Greed, and who's the greedy people but the capitalists? People need to be educated to what capitalism is all about, what capitalism used to be all about as well, and figure out, ways of doing away with the system, because the system is no longer able to serve the people. It's capitalism was the beginning stages. I was going to say that'd be wrong if I say that. Capitalism is the beginning stages of exploitation. Not that there wasn't exploitation before, but there wasn't as it is under capitalism. And so people are suffering all over the world. People are hungry all over the world. And if you look at Walmart and you look at Kmart and you look at these big corporations and how much profits they make a year, you'll find out that they don't care nothing about you. They care about making profits. So my point is that we need to educate people in that context and try to make them understand that capitalism is not for them. Like when I talked about I was going to say in Spanish, the Puerto Ricans, when the early explorers were capitalists. They came to the country. They came to the island because another country is an island, and they just went rampant, stupid. Taking this, taking that, taking this, taking that. Just like the Spaniards when they went to they went to the island. Who were there? The Taínos, the Indians. And they really did a mess with us Indians. So we need to look at all this whole history and try to understand it, and then try to figure out what we're gonna do. I used to work with the Midnight Special. I don't know if you ever heard of it, the Midnight Special, but it's a prison movement, and they created a prison newspaper. And so what we used to do, we used to bring all the letters that used to come in from the prisons. We used to put them together, sort them out, and from these letters, we create what you call propaganda, and we put it into the paper, and then we send it back into the prison, or else we send it to various communities, and let them read what's happening in the prisons. I was doing that for a while, and then when I started working with the Legal Aid Society, I was also going to the prisons and interviewing people and trying to get them out. On many occasions, I did, got them out and brought them to prison rehabilitation centers, etc., just to help them so that they could help themselves. And I also work with the HIV clinic, and I used to also help them. Right now I'm retired. I'm not doing nothing. I hate to say it like that, but that's how that go.
Bro Jelani, please.
Peace, comrade. This is not actually a question, but this is based on the dialogue. And I can say this dialogue was very informative. And I would like to say that this is why education is a must in our movement, because we have brothers, we have comrades like Shay who been through the storm, but is still here. And he's an inspiration to all of us. And he can be the inspiration to the younger generation who are looking for another way to move forward and to. Hold on, I'm getting a little out of range here, but to impact the youth to do better and to continue this fight against the machines that we know as ism and as colonialism, fascism, capitalism, racism, Zionism, authoritarianism, if I said that right. But it's important for the younger generation to know about this brother and many comrades who are no longer here, because they are the answer to the future.
Well, to the future, our future generation is a result of our involvement in the movement right now. We create our future generations. Now, when it comes to our young people, what we need to do is we need to stress a few things. Maybe I may be wrong in saying this, but need to stay in school, get well educated. Not that education in school is any good, but at least get some type of education, so that they could, come into the movement packed. One of the things that with me when I was a young kid, I used to run the streets. Didn't care about education. Matter of fact, my mother passed away my mother was Jamaican and my father was Puerto Rican, so you can imagine, and I used to run the streets, and when my mother passed away, I didn't care nothing. I left school, everything, and I ran into the streets, and when the streets drove me to prison, and so I'm saying to the kids today, there's other alternatives to developing. And the streets is not it. Definitely streets is not it. So I don't know. Am I right or what?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we're gonna go with this final statement, and we're gonna end it out. And my final your final statement to my final question for you, I would like you to answer is, as I can see through prison and everything that you've been through, you unified with a lot of people, different people outside of your race, in order to fight this common enemy. My last question will be for you is, what is the importance of a united front?
Very important. Brother Deruba, you know him?
Yes, sir.
Deruba Benwala? Well,
yes, sir.
He's in the process of unifying. He was with me in prison too, as a matter of fact, so he could talk to you about me. And he United Front, wow. He's doing that right now. There's other people that are doing that, and I think that Brother Deruba will be the person to talk to, man, pertaining to the United Front Against Fascism. But yes, we need to come together, man, because fascism is here. Fascism ain't gone. Fascism ain't come. Fascism is now. You know, if we allow Trump, as a matter of fact, Trump, or we allow these two bumps, man, to continue, you know, then I don't know what's going to happen with the world. You know, it's not going to be the same. People don't like it. You know, what's her name? Claudia Cruz. She and another sister named Karina. They both running for president. One is running for president. The other one is running for vice president, but not in the same ticket as the Democrats or the Republican, on a different ticket. You know, and Carmen de la Cruz she's a Marxist-Leninist, you know, and so is both of them Marxist-Leninists, and they spoke with Deruba not too long ago, and I guess they're going to try to formulate some kind of unification where the Chicanos come. They start getting involved with the Chicanos, etc., you know, to unite, to make it a united front. But I think a united front is very important at this point, you know, because to tell you the truth, the left, I don't see nothing in the left. You know, I mean, after they destroyed the Panther Party, you know, nothing happened, man. You know, I wish that in a way, I wish that people like Huey and people like Bobby Seals was well. I mean, we got them now, but I'm saying they would come back and help us. You know, because the Black Panther Party contributed a whole lot to the education of people. People today that are not even any longer doing anything for anybody, but they still think about Bobby Seals and Huey Newton, you know, and I think that's important.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I would like to also thank Joe Gonzalez for helping us connect as well. He's been a very big, vital piece in helping connect with all different types of brothers and creating this united front, this network of people coming together, of people who's politically mature and actually want change. And I like to once again give you thanks, Mr. Gonzalez, and let's continue on building and having progressive, positive dialogues like this. Let's keep on educating. Let's keep on finding people who's serious about this, who's passionate, who's committed about this. Because I would want to say one thing to you, Mr. Shea. There's a lot of Huey P. Newtons. There's a lot of George Jacksons. There's a lot of Bobby Seals in the making. George Jackson live on through us, most definitely.
Definitely.
But
I didn't mean it like that, but you know.
No. You said the perfect thing. No, I'm not telling you to take back anything. You said the perfect thing. There needs to be more education. The youth needs to take it serious, and that's what we're here for. And that's the importance of dialogues like this, so we can talk to the elders, talk to the people who was in those situations. And you got to teach us, you got to give us awareness, like what you did. You did this out the blue for us. You know, we didn't plan this. We just talked for a second and say, hey man, let's get on here and let's do it. You know, like how real revolutionaries do it. You still got the revolution in you. You're still a revolutionary. You know, you're gonna die a revolutionary. All of us, is, you know,
no doubt. So no doubt.
So I greatly appreciate this call. This is as revolutionary as it can get. You know, this ain't scripted. I want to thank you. Know what I mean?
I want to thank you also, man, for accepting me, man, amongst your company, man. You know, I want to thank the rest of the brothers that are here right now. I want to thank them for even coming to listening. You know, just a word to the wise, man. The more you get, the better it is. You know, so
I would like to end by saying this: all power to the people and free the land.
I want to end by this. I want to end by this: power to the people, free Puerto Rico, and free the land.